Right, so we are getting ever closer to Itauma versus White, and I've given my pick. I've done my prediction video. Itauma late, mid to late stoppage, probably going to be late, probably between round 7 and 10. I fully believe. So this isn't a prediction video. We've been there, seen it, done it, worn a t-shirt. That's fine, right? What I'm going to talk about is Itauma in the run up to this fight. Is he actually feeling pressure? Because Moses Itauma is right. I'm not right. So when Daniel Dubois came on the scene, I think he was a little bit. He was older than Itauma. He was. I think he was about 18. No, I think he was 19. Daniel Dubois, and very quiet, very reserved. Right. And we all kind of thought, okay, maybe that's going to change as the years progress. You know, he'll get more comfy in front of camera. Never happened. We can speculate as to why that is. But Daniel Dubois now is in his mid to late 20s and he's still just as socially awkward as he was back then. Itauma never had that socially awkward feel to him at all. He just came across as a very sort of an introvert character, didn't give much away, but had a confidence and actually had a maturity about him. You know, I interviewed Moses when he was just turned 18. That was before his pro debut up in what's it called, the Brent Centre, up near the Ovo in Wembley. And since then, I haven't interviewed him since, but I have, met him at events as well. And he's always been. I've interviewed his brother, Carol, and Mo's always been respectful to me. He's fist bumped me a couple of times, acknowledged me and stuff like that. So very respectful, a very mature for his age young man, certainly, but always been very quiet, reserved, quite an introvert, right? But I never got the impression that he was socially awkward or anything like that. And I still don't, to be honest with you. But in the build up to this fight, he is a lot more out of his shell. Not for some people, that could indicate that, okay, maybe he's now 20, he's turned a bit of a corner in terms of not turning a corner in terms of maturity or anything like that, he certainly has that. But in terms of just, what he needs to do in front of camera, etc., etc. He was interviewed yesterday by Emily Austin on The Zone, and that was more kind of, lively and, more chatty than I'm used to seeing Itauma. He did the face-off with Dempsey McKean. The less said about that, the better. That wasn't a particularly good one, to be honest, for a variety of reasons. Last year, and it was just, it was not good, to say the least. The Dillian Whyte one was more interesting, and Itauma, mentioned, I'm Moses Itauma, I'm gonna do this, and he's not more chatty. And you could tell that Dillian Whyte was almost trying. It was weird the way Dillian Whyte was in that face-to-face. Dillian Whyte almost kind of maybe trying to play mind games with Itauma, fool him into thinking, you got no chance, or I have no chance, and this, that. And I just felt that Itauma, even when Dillian Whyte was complimenting him, Itauma was a bit more animated, not in terms of anger or anything like that, but was trying to, say, oh, this is why, it's not because it's like, no, man, just accept it and move on. It does have me wondering, is that maybe a sign, potentially, I'm asking the question, that he maybe is feeling a bit of pressure? Because you've got to understand, right? Anthony Joshua made it to the Olympic finals. Whether you think he won or not, that's an irrelevancy. Did he make it to the World Finals and lost prior to that? Now, whether you think he beat Roberto Camarel or not, that's an irrelevancy. The fact of the matter was he was there, right? I think it was this day in 2012 or maybe yesterday in 2012, but it happened. And that's all well and good. He turned pro, again, to an awful lot of fanfare. Probably more than young Moses did. In fact, definitely more than young Moses did. Anthony Joshua was, he was the next coming. He'd fought on big shows. I think the first big show that he might have headlined was when he fought Gary Cornish. I think that was in the O2. Might have been for the British title. And, you seeing that Anthony Joshua was, he was able to handle it. Pay-per-view, headline, actually first pay-per-view for Itauma he's headlining is against Dillian Whyte. Likewise for Anthony Joshua, headline, not the first pay-per-view he's been on, but as a headline act. But how old was Anthony Joshua? Mid-20s? Having had not a, long amateur career in terms of having hundreds of fights like your Usyk, your Lomachenkos, your Triple Gs of the world, but an amateur career where he was at the sharp end. He had all that, and he was exposed to the big stage and, all of that. So he was able to make that transition from undercard fighter to maybe co-main event to being headline act pay-per-view, right? And then obviously he was fast-tracked to the world title. We all know what happened. We all know about Anthony Joshua. There's no need for it to go into too much detail in it, right? He's been there, seen it, worn the t-shirt many a time over. Wembley Stadium, etc. Now, Itauma only had about 20 or so amateur fights. He has done a lot of sparring, but again, sparring is behind closed doors. You're in an environment that you feel comfy in. You're away from the scrutiny of the camera. You're not allowed, strictly speaking, you're not really allowed, and most gyms won't allow you to record a spar. They might show you a glimpse of footage, but you're talking 5 seconds, maybe, if even. So he's been kind of away in his own comfort zone. He's fought on big shows as co-main event. I believe him against McKeon was co-main event on Fury Usyk too. But again, he's going in as the firm favourite against the fighter he's expected to beat, and he's the bridesmaid, right? He's fought in the he's fought in the York Hall a couple of times. He's fought low down the card. You know, Itauma's always been that guy. You know, he can learn his craft. He's not strictly, you know, the eyes of the world are on you, etc. Getting bigger, and, you know, more people are talking about him, but still, you know, comfy at his own pace. Now his first headline. Bear in mind, Joshua's first headline, I believe, was at the O2 against Gary Cornish. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I know he headlined that night. And this is his first headline. A pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia against Dillian Whyte, and all the media work that comes with it. You did a face-off on Monday. You had the grand arrivals yesterday. You're doing the public workout today. You're doing the press conference tomorrow. You're doing the weigh-in tomorrow. Or you're doing the weigh-in on Friday. Now you're doing fight night on Saturday. You'll have a press conference most likely after. Lots going on. Lots going on for a young man at 20. How is he caking all that? And that's what I'm wondering. It really, again, you know, you compare him to maybe someone like an Anthony Joshua, and it's like, well, AJ had, you know, all this experience in the amateurs. He had, you know, the Sky, you know, machine behind him and stuff like that. But he was a lot older than Itauma. Again, how old would AJ have been? What, mid to late 20s? 25, 26, thereabouts. So old enough to be, you know, a bit more sturdy in that. Does have me wondering with Itauma. It is a wonder. But personally, I think Itauma, when I look at him, I think that there's something there with this kid. I think he's got an old head on young shoulders. I think that this is the first, look, it's his first time headliner, it's the first pay-per-view, probably will be jitters. But do I think that that's going to play enough of a factor to cause Dillian Whyte to be able to win this fight? I don't, quite frankly. I don't. I think that, do you know what, maybe Dillian Whyte with the cam approach, maybe, in actual fact, maybe the best way to get Itauma to really maybe overthink things and maybe wonder what the hell's going on would be to be the kind of Chisora flipping the table, you know, what you gonna do, you know, up in your face, stuff like that. Maybe that actually would work better, because again, you're talking about almost the bully boy tactics. And maybe for someone who's 20 years old, headlining again, pay-per-view, Saudi Arabia for the first time, all the hype around you, maybe that would offset him more. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And again, I'm not used to seeing Itauma be as, you know, open about not say open about speaking, but like speaking as much as he is, you know. That interview we gave with Emily Austin, it was like, whoa, he's talking a lot. I'm like, that's different, that's interesting. Okay, not used to that from Itauma. All right, cool. Let's see what we see go one of two ways. He's either feeling so confident he's actually coming out of his shell a little bit, or because some people when they get a little bit nervous, you know, they start, maybe they're not a chatterbox normally, but then, you know, they start talking like that, and it's just going like that. Not that I'm nervous. I've done God knows how many videos, so I'm used to talking in front of camera, but you get what I mean. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Moses Itauma, I think he's feeling it. At 20 years old, people who are watching who are over the age of 20, when I was 20 years old, I was an absolute degenerate. I got no problem saying that. How would I have coped? Not very well, most likely. But how would most 20-year-olds cope in this situation? There you go. Let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video. People, smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. And until next time, peace.